I was studying abroad, got bamboozled as young 20-year-olds and went into a taxi that we shouldn't have, and were driven out into the middle of nowhere, followed by a car of huge men. And we realized that we were definitely at risk of being sold into sex trafficking.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're at episode 3 of the Not So Sick Chicks.
Woo! Thank you guys for all of your amazing comments, your feedback, sliding into our DMs with your stories, your questions. The support and community building that this has been so far has been like amazing and incredibly touching, overwhelmingly touching to Bisma and I.
So sweet, so supportive, and just, like we're loving reading the comments and the messages coming in. It's been so fun.
And on that note, you warriors of hope, please continue to subscribe and comment and like. It helps us build this community and we'll be all the better for it.
Yes.
So let's dive on in. Biz, how's your week been?
It's been a good week. So last week we were traveling together, and then when I got back, I was exhausted. So using our spoon theory analogy from last week, like I was definitely negative spoons. And it took me it probably took me 2 days to get back to being like, okay, like now I can function. So those first 2 days I spent eating dinner at 6:30, being in bed by 8. My husband calls it senior citizen dinner time and bedtime, which I think is hilarious, but also true.
I think that's so funny. That's definitely a cultural thing, because 6:30 dinner for me is like, that's late.
That's hilarious. No, like normally we eat dinner at like 8:30.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I actually really like the 6:30 dinner time. So nice. I think I'm going to keep that going forward.
Okay, so
early dinners in bed by 8:30, watching a little Bravo and going to sleep early.
Yay.
And then after a couple of days of that, I was like, okay, I have enough energy to go do some self-care things for myself. So I booked a facial on ClassPass. So
do you like ClassPass?
So no. So basically, I like the concept of it. I think it's a cool concept. I only use ClassPass when I'm in a pinch.
Okay.
And just need to find something that's like ready to book without me having to call around and ask for appointments.
Makes sense.
So I booked it on ClassPass. It was actually like an eyebrow salon that was doing facials. So super sketch.
When you're that desperate for some wellness.
The room that I was in, like, didn't, like when they don't have, like it's not actually a room. It's just like a
wall,
like a partial wall. Mm-hmm. So you can like hear people next to you.
Love that.
So it was that the walls were like this like bubble gum pink color to paint the picture for you. Ooh, and
calming.
It was really sketch, but like the lady was like all like hands in on my face and like gave me like a really good like massage and like I felt like good and detoxing in that sense.
Okay, we'll take it.
Yeah.
When in a pinch. But we might not give a shout out to this place.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that you did that.
Yes.
What other wellness things did you do?
And then I did acupuncture. And I've been going weekly for my appointments. That happened on Friday, and then did that, and I did infrared sauna a couple times.
Good.
And did a little bit of light movement, so like incorporating my daily routine again. So I actually went to the gym one day.
Woo.
Walked on the treadmill, did some like strengthening exercises.
Good.
And got some sunlight, spent some time outside, just light walks with Bella. And what else did I do? And then I started doing stuff around the house, which I enjoy, like cooking again, making my wellness shots, getting into that routine. So yeah, it took a few days, and then I got out of that slump of like, oh, I'm so tired and exhausted, and then I finally felt better enough to do all those things.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm sorry that there was a slump, but I'm glad that you have the tools to get yourself back into a baseline. That's awesome. Which one out of those 3 things that you did would you say is like, if you can only pick one and you need to recover and you have limited time, which one would you tell our community to go do or
Of
try?
the self-care activities?
Yeah.
I think for me, the infrared sauna gives me the most energy afterwards.
I
I
feel the
think
same.
that, yeah, it's like an hour activity, and that's like the best bang for your buck as far as like time. Like
Totally.
that 1 hour makes me feel, 5x better than I did before.
I agree. And I don't think you have to like build on it. Like acupuncture, you kind of have to like be consistent and build on it to really reap the benefits, but you can just go once and feel good after infrared.
Yes. Yeah. And infrared sauna reminds me of like it's a workout in the sense of like you like have anxiety going into it. You're like, do I really want to go do this? Like, what's the point? And then afterwards, you're like, I don't know why I don't do this more. This is the best feeling. So it reminds me of like
100%.
a good workout.
I love that. And it does, like, you're sweating, so it causes you to have that endorphin hit too.
Yeah. I do like the sweat. I feel like from
too.
someone who used to like work out hard, like getting that sweat in is really helpful.
Absolutely. I think it like has to trick our bodies in some way to think that we're doing movement too or something.
Yeah. Although when I took my husband to infrared sauna, he was like, this isn't a workout. And I was like, it's kind of like a workout. Just wait and see. And then we get in there and this guy like 20 minutes in is like, I have to open the door. Like it's way too hot. Like I can't stay in here. So
It's like guys when they go to yoga for the first time and they're like, you want me to go to stretching?
yeah. And then they come out afterwards and they're like, oh, that was so hard.
They can't walk for the next week. I love it. Okay, so you're back to baseline, but you're going to travel again, like in a week.
Next week. Yeah. In a week.
How are you feeling about that?
I feel okay. I wish I had a little bit more time to just stay at home and have my regular routine.
Yeah.
But the good thing is I'm going home. I'm going to Austin. So I'll be at my parents' house, which like they very much are like so good about the fact that I like need to just have like a pretty chill routine and they don't like pack my schedule with things to do. So that'll be good. I may take my Vitamix blender with me, TBD.
I love that idea.
I know like they have a blender, but I'm pretty addicted to my Vitamix now. So I'll be in Austin. My plan is to keep things light. So I'm not going to do something every day, which is what I normally do when I'm down there.
Yes.
So I'm going to make sure that like every time I have like a friends or family activity planned, the next day is like nothing. So yes, I think hopefully building my, my trip like that, I won't be negative spoons when I return.
Yeah.
And I also feel like I don't have time to have negative spoons when I get back. So as soon as I get back, I have my next set of scans.
Yep.
And then I've got 2 days of doctor's appointments, and then I'm going to Joe Dispenza. So I really don't have time to recover.
You don't. And when you're on like a crunch like that, I think we always talk about this, like you feel like you're selfish, but you have to be. And it's not being selfish. It's just prioritizing your health.
It's better for everyone. It feels selfish, but actually you're helping other people because then they don't have to deal with you complaining or being tired and, canceling things that you've committed to.
Yeah.
So I think
the
all
best
around
version.
it's a win-win.
Was there anything that from last travel session that you feel like you've learned that you're going to bring forward to this next trip?
I think definitely like do something one day, take a break one day. I think, and I purposely made this trip to Austin longer so I can build in that time.
Good.
So while it'll be like more days out of the house, I think I'm going for almost like 10 days, but it's going to be like 5 days of doing activities. And also my niece is graduating from high school. So that's essentially the purpose of my trip. So I'm super excited for that. We're going to go to her ceremony. She's having a big graduation party. And I'm really excited. I'm really proud of her for, I like high school graduation. I know in Texas it's like a really big thing. It's almost celebrated more than college graduations.
That's
not because
cool.
of the importance, but just because it's like a coming of age moment.
I totally agree. That's how it was in Indiana too. It was like a big party. All of the family and friends were invited. And when I graduated from college, it was like just my family.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was still lovely.
It's still, but people normally don't have like big graduation parties for college, which is interesting.
It is interesting. That's everyone's like, all right, you're on your own. You can throw yourself a big graduation
Throw yourself a party. Totally.
Well, I'm really excited that you're coming down, and I'm glad that
Yeah.
you made these changes for your trip so that you can have good sustaining.
Yes. Thank you. I'm excited. And I'll get to see you again. So that's awesome. And
Yes,
I'm super excited for that.
me too. I am loving
Yes.
these Austin trips. I'm
Yeah.
getting to reap the benefits of your family living here.
You tell me, honey, how have you been post our trip and what's been going on with you this week?
So it's been a tough couple of weeks. Obviously, this has been amazing, exciting new transition in my life, career wise. But there's a lot of like uncertainties and things up in the air right now. And I'm in a flare up. And with all of those things combined, it's kind of been a perfect storm. I struggle with anxiety, panic attack, and depression. And depression was something I did not struggle with at all until I got diagnosed with vasculitis in 2019. And now when it hits, it's really heavy. And I think I'm still learning the tools on how to deal with it properly, but it kind of sneaks up on me. I'll be laying in bed and not want to get out of bed. I'm like crying all the time. I just feel like there's not an escape out of it, and it's hard. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely in one of those states right now. So, full disclosure, the sick chick's a little depressy right now. But
Sorry, honey.
it's okay. The one thing I can remind myself of, I have a very analytical brain, so that I lean on that during these times. I'm like, okay, this won't last forever for me. I'm really lucky,
Right.
and it's episodic. So I'm gonna up my meds. I think I'm on Wellbutrin.
Yeah.
I'm on a pretty low dose, so I'm just gonna go up a little bit on that. Getting
Okay.
back into regular therapy. When things are good, I'm like everyone else. I let it slip, and I'm
Right.
not super routine about it. So I'm trying to get back on that,
Right.
and just do things that I know help, like exercise or infrared sauna and stuff.
Good.
Yeah. That's probably a good caveat into what we're going to be talking about today, which is mental health. It's going really good,
Alex,
guys.
where is your mental health right now? Yeah.
It's at an
Zero to-
ATL.
All time low. I know.
Ugh.
Yeah, no, I think mental health is, very much an important topic that affects all of us in some way or another. And so
Yeah.
we wanted to spend this week's episode getting into that, getting into, our experiences with mental health, our tools for managing our mental health, things we've learned along the way. And that's what we're going to do today.
Yeah. All right, let's go.
When you get diagnosed with these heavy diagnoses that we have, there's obviously the physical aspect of your health, and there's a bunch of doctors that come in and they give you all this advice on what treatments you have to do, what medicine you have to take, all of that. But the mental health aspect of it, that's kind of something that I think oftentimes we have to like spearhead ourselves.
Yeah.
And that, like, along with the help of our family and friends, unfortunately, like, usually doctors don't come in and say, hey, like, let me connect you with a therapist, or let me connect you with a mental health professional that you can talk to during this time. So the different aspects of mental health that I know Alex and I both experienced are anxiety, depression.
Yep.
What else, Alex?
Some panic attacks, some
Yes.
PTSD.
Panic attacks. Yes, PTSD. Yep. Disclaimer, we're not doctors. We are just people that have experienced these things. So anxiety for me feels like it feels like I'm like worried, jittery, like physically kind of feeling shaky.
Spirally.
I feel like, which one?
Like spirally.
Spirally, yes. Like one thought goes to the next thought, which goes to like multiple other thoughts.
Totally.
Feels like my brain can't like catch a break.
Yeah.
Like it's just like constantly on this hamster wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And physically speaking, like anxiety for me, whenever I've had anxiety attacks or like pent up anxiety, feels like I'll like break out into sweats. I feel lightheaded. I feel dizzy. There's been, whenever I've gone into like panic attack mode, it feels like a heart attack.
Yeah.
Like
And
it feels
it's
like
terrifying.
Like it literally feels like someone's like squeezing my chest.
Yeah. Like it feels heavy.
Yes. What has it felt like for you?
Heavy. You can't breathe.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like go into hyperventilation mode.
Yeah.
Dizzy.
Dizzy. Yep.
What about you?
I would say also dehydrated. I feel like all of a sudden like
Ah,
parched. Like
that's
my
really
mouth
interesting.
my mouth is dry and I can't seem to like get words out properly.
Oh my God, I'm like thinking about all my panic attacks and I totally resonate with that, but I've never identified that before.
Yeah, like people will be like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" And it's like I can't even like get the words out. So it just feels like
Whoa. Yeah.
what is that called? Cotton mouth? Is that what it's called?
Cottonmouth. Yeah. It's like a,
Yeah. If,
interesting. I've always thought
yeah.
that that was from something else, but
Yeah. That's anxiety. What about depression? What has depression felt like for you?
like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Like
Yeah.
everything has a negative spin to it. I think I'm like predominantly a rather positive person, but I will wake up and like the first thing I think is negative when I'm in a depressive state. Whether that's about myself, my life, my relationships, I'll have a lot of self-doubt on like, does so and so even like me? Is my brother mad at me? Just a lot of like a lot of negativity, a lot of disinterest in things that I usually like to do. So I'll
Right.
like be scrolling a lot, I think, on social media, getting bored, and then highly irritable.
Okay. Like agitated.
Super agitated. Like if I'm on a walk with the dogs and they're stopping and sniffing things every 5 seconds. Usually I'm like, oh, it's like they're on Instagram and they're smelling all of their friends and catching up on what they're doing. But if I'm in a
Yeah.
depressive state, I'm like, come on, walk.
Yeah.
Dogs.
Like
Just hurry
hurry it
up.
up along. Like stop. Yeah.
Yeah. What about for you? What's depressive states been like for you?
I think it's felt like, yeah, a lack of interest. Like nothing is like nothing appeals to me, nothing seems interesting to me, like
Yeah.
like even if I hang out with like friends or family that normally I would have a great time with, like I just feel like removed from the situation and I'm kind of just feel like I'm like
Yeah.
watching these people
Kind of like
and
out
I'm
of
not
body.
out of body, like not actively participating.
Yeah.
And isolated. I feel isolated when I go through depressive states where I just feel
Yeah.
like it's just alone. I feel like no one else gets it.
Yeah.
And I don't have the energy to explain what's going on with me.
I think that's a really good way to encompass all of that. Yeah. That's so accurate. Just kind of listless.
Yes.
Okay, what about like panic, or I guess we already did panic attacks. What about like PTSD?
Yeah. So PTSD, so from my understanding, it's like when there's a specific incident,
Yep.
which is usually like a traumatic experience that you've gone through. So for me, I think I've had a couple of traumatic experiences, unfortunately, both being in my 20s. And I feel like now, like I've like specific triggers from those that like when I see certain items, for me, it's like knives. For the longest time, I couldn't
Yeah.
have knives in my house because it would trigger me and send me into this spiral. So cooking was actually really complicated for a while.
Just cutting
I
a
was-
carrot with a fork.
Yeah, or like I would have like only butter knives, right? So I wouldn't
Yeah.
have any like sharp objects in my house. And
Oh,
so
busy.
yeah, that was tough. But I've actually like gotten way past that to where like
Yeah.
now I have like a knife set on my counter, like displayed all the time. So that's like
That's
I feel like I've
huge.
come a long way from where I was.
Absolutely.
It took time, but I think it doesn't. I'm lucky that those triggers got better for me as time went on. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily happen. Sometimes you just have those for the rest of your life, and that's just what it is.
So
but,
true. Yeah.
But yeah, usually the PTSD, like when I was getting triggered, it felt like I was like spiraling. Like I would see the trigger and then I would like basically be taken back in time into the experience. And I felt like I was reliving that traumatic experience in the current present time.
Did it make it difficult to like stay present in the moment and explain to other like communicate with other people like, oh, I need a minute? Or were you like so
No.
sucked into that like
No.
that was all you could
I felt
see?
That's all I could see. I felt
Yeah.
like I needed people to like pull me out of it essentially.
Yeah.
And be like, you're going to be okay. Like kind of just like hug me, hold me and be like, it's, you know, you're going to be fine.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
PTSD is really hard.
You've had experiences with PTSD too, right?
Yeah. The first one that I like really identify as PTSD was a kidnapping experience in college. I was studying abroad, got bamboozled as young 20-year-olds and went into a taxi that we shouldn't have. And were driven out into the middle of nowhere, followed by a car of huge men.
Yeah.
And we realized that we were definitely at risk of being sold into sex trafficking. And the following months from that, I like couldn't be in a car by myself. I couldn't be home by myself. I always felt like someone was trying to attack me. And like even now, to this day, which probably means I need to do some work on this. But if I am at a really, really high stress state, like not even no triggers happening, just at a high stress state, and I'm laying in bed, I will start like thinking I'm hearing someone in our house.
Oh man.
And go into a full panic attack. And I'll wake up Cooper and be like, I think there's someone here. So now we have a protocol. Which this is like, I'm sure feeding into, like, as I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, maybe that's not the right solution for this. But then he goes, turns on all the lights, checks all of the doors, like every closet, making sure that there's no one in there. And then hopefully it'll lower me down. But like, I still struggle with this, and that was 10 years ago. And like for years, I've also like gaslit myself into thinking like, did we like overthink this? Like, were we fine? Were we safe? And what I've come to is like, it doesn't matter if it was going to be nothing. We felt very unsafe. There were very weird signs.
1000%. It doesn't matter whether it was going to be okay or not. The fact that you didn't feel okay, that in itself is enough.
So that was like, that is what opened my eyes into mental health. I'd definitely been struggling with anxiety my entire life and just had never been diagnosed.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, how was your entrance into mental health? Like really not fixing, but like managing your mental health?
Yeah, I think so. My anxiety started in my 20s, I would say. Well, it was probably there before, but I didn't know. But I think I first started, like I had a panic attack on an airplane. So I was flying to
That's like the worst place.
Yeah, I was flying to Africa.
Oh my God.
It's just the entire continent of Africa. I was flying, I think, to Equatorial Guinea.
Okay.
For like a work trip. And I remember being in like the last row of the airplane and like in the middle seat, just like not a good seating situation on the airplane.
No.
And
For a long haul too.
yes, it was a really long flight. And basically felt like at some point I like as the plane was taxiing to take off, I felt like I should unbuckle my seatbelt and like run down the aisle and like get off the plane. And so that's like physically what I was feeling. And so
Good.
yeah, great. Really safe feeling. So I felt that, and then, you know, full body sweat was like I ended up not doing that. But the flight took off. I was just having like a ton of anxiety. And so that's kind of where it started for me. And so when I went to the doctor afterwards, like they gave me Xanax to take whenever I fly.
Sure.
And so for a long time, like that's kind of how I've managed my flight anxiety.
Yeah.
Because like flying became a trigger for me, that it always
Likewise.
like reminded me of that situation. And so I learned to, you know, I have to like take a little bit of Xanax before I even leave for the airport. Otherwise, like it just builds up inside of me and I can't even get on the airplane.
And we can overcome, like, this is a great tool for overcoming that.
Yeah. So I think like the medication is good in the sense like it physically removes the symptoms of anxiety.
Yeah.
The other thing I started doing later on was going to therapy.
Yeah.
So doing like talk therapy with a therapist. And I feel like that is a better long-term solution. I think Xanax is great for short-term fixing
agree.
it.
Yeah.
But I think long-term solution for me was doing therapy, talking about that experience. I think having to relive it and then talking with a professional about
Yeah.
like why you feel triggered and kind of understanding that like your triggers are normal and they're expected, and
Yes.
it's not wrong to feel triggered, and
No.
you shouldn't like not feel triggered. It's okay to feel them. And I
Yeah.
think just like being able to like give myself that grace, like this is why I feel triggered, allowed me to have a lot less anxiety around it actually.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And do you think that that has transferred into diagnosis and the anxiety around living with cancer?
Yes. So I think once you have anxiety, it kind of will always be with you.
Yeah.
And I think it ebbs and flows into your life at different times. So
Yeah.
when getting diagnosed, of course, it's like, even if you didn't have anxiety before, you probably have it now.
You're welcome.
Yes. It's like a little, what are those called when you go to like kids' birthday party and you get those?
A take-home present? Not a take-home.
A take home. Yeah. A giveaway? No, not a giveaway.
But in our giveaway, we're going to give away anxiety. A party favor.
Party favor. So yes, a party favor is when you get diagnosed, anxiety is a party favor that you get.
I'm going to cry. That's so funny.
Yeah. Probably paired with depression, which I think those two are like,
Yeah.
they're like the best friend combo that
Yes.
comes together. Or buy one, get one free. So,
The best kind of BOGO.
BOGO.
Thanks, cancer.
Cancer and a BOGO.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. So when I got diagnosed, I was like, okay, it's going to be a high anxiety time of life. And
Yeah.
so in the past, I had taken Zoloft regularly. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and get back on that. So I called
Yep.
my doctor and I said, I got diagnosed. I would like to get back on my Zoloft prescription. So I started at, again, like a low dose of Zoloft,
That's
which
really
I think
good.
for me has worked really well. Like I've used it over the last like 6-7 years. And I'll take it for like anywhere from like minimum 3 months to like maximum a year at a time. And I feel like whenever I feel like my anxiety is something I can manage on my own, then I taper off of it. Definitely
Slowly.
one tip. Yes, the tapering off. So I've had experiences where I'm like, okay, I'm fine. I don't need to take my medicine anymore.
Oof.
And I stopped taking it like cold turkey, and that will send you into a tizzy in your brain.
It can be so dangerous. It can literally cause psychosis.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't know that. That would probably give me more anxiety.
I think so too, and I'm glad you avoided the psychosis. That is also true with like many medications. Never taper solo. We've both made the mistake. I did it on a pain medication once, and holy shit, I have newfound very, very deep compassion for people on the streets having withdrawal symptoms now.
Yes,
It
like
is-
those pain meds.
Whew. Do not come off that cold turkey.
No, like you literally will have like physical withdrawal symptoms.
Throwing up, diarrhea, rashes, you think there's something crawling under your skin, literal psychosis,
Yeah, sweats.
suicidal ideation. Like, it is bad time.
Yeah.
The one time I did that, I called my pain management doctor, and he was like, oh, sweetheart, yeah, let's not do that again. And then he prayed with me on the phone, which was really kind.
That is so sweet.
And then wrote me a prescription for a withdrawal medication.
Yeah. No,
Stay on
yeah,
top
there's
of
certain
it.
medications they can, like gabapentin,
Yes.
which is like for nerve pain, but like
Yeah.
it's used, I think, in withdrawal situations. So they'll
Same
like
with
help you.
clonidine.
Yes. They help with that. But yeah, no, it's definitely like consult with your doctor when you're trying to get off of any medication
Or onto a medication.
or onto medication. Yep.
Yeah. So when you got diagnosed, I think you were, from the outsider's perspective, and I hope you feel this too, you were really, really proactive about your mental health. Going back on Zoloft, getting into therapy, joining support groups. What are the other
Yep.
things that you found to be helpful when you were kind of shifting into this next chapter of your life?
I think I don't know if you remember this, but I think I basically was like, we're going to divide and conquer. So like
Yeah.
between like all of my family and friends, I was like, okay, like you're going to call like all the pain management doctors that we know and like find out if they think these are the right meds. Like you're going to call all the oncologists and talk to them. And I was like, you're going to get me blankets and, snacks. And so I just kind of divvied up tasks and was like, you guys like have your marching orders, go handle all this stuff, because those are all the things that I wanted to do. But I was like laid up in a hospital, in so much pain. But I like, at least like my brain was working in that sense that I knew what needed to get done. And so I just asked you guys all to split up and manage everything. So I think being proactive about that was really helpful for me. Why don't we talk about like some things that we have done to help us with all of these things?
I love that idea.
What are some of your tools?
This one, I love therapy.
Yeah.
It makes me feel so good to have someone I pay tell me I'm doing okay.
I love therapy. I actually like actively take notes in therapy. Do you do that?
No, but I just learned that people do that, and I want to try that now. I think it'd be very helpful.
Yeah, because I actually, for me, like whenever I've done, this is like traditional talk therapy. So just like one-on-one with a therapist. What I've done is that, like I actually do phone calls with my therapist. So I don't do video.
Interesting.
Because I found that phone calls for me forced me to talk more, because I feel like on video, I end up just like staring, like kind of dazed a lot. And I feel like on the phone, when there's silence, then I'm more quick to say something and we can pick apart more things that I'm talking about.
That's so interesting, B.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
What do you do do you meet your therapist in person?
I used to. And then once COVID happened, I have transitioned to FaceTimes primarily, and I really like it.
Okay. Awesome.
I do feel like I'm more productive in like digging in to more layers in person.
Oh, interesting.
I think it's
really
because like if there's a screen, maybe I can put a little mask up of like I'm doing better than, I don't know why, but, and maybe this is a shared experience for many people. I feel like I always want my therapist's approval. Like I really want her to like me.
Yeah.
And think that I'm doing well. And so I do feel like I struggle with sometimes going that next level deeper of like, can you give me feedback on this?
Yeah. I like that. I used to be like that with my therapist. I think at some point I was like, oh, this woman's my friend. And I was like, I gotta like shake. That's again the people pleasing aspect of like I'm saying things to get her approval or to make sure that like she likes me or that she agrees with my decisions. But then I got to a point where I would just like, if anything, I pushed her to challenge me. So I would say like, I would ask her questions like, this is what I think, but like I think you probably have a different perspective. Like I want to hear your different perspective on it.
I like
kind of
that.
like forcing her to say something. And a lot of times like she would be like, no, I agree with you. But it opened it up for her to easily, give a different perspective if she did have one.
That's really, really cool that you did that. What age or like what event triggered you to want to do that?
I think during COVID, I think for a lot of people, like COVID was really tough, like being in quarantine. I was living alone in San Francisco during that time. And so I was like stuck in this like tiny apartment, working in investment banking. So working like all day, all night, and then not sleeping. And so during that time, I felt like my mental health like really took a step back or took a hit.
Yeah.
And when I would talk to her, I think I was just like, I really need someone to like really push me to like get me out of like the state I'm in. And so I think I was like at such a low that I was just like, I have to change something.
That's awesome. I mean, that is making lemonade out of lemons, of saying like, I'm stuck, make me grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But sometimes it's hard to know when you're stuck.
Exactly. And that's where I think like a good therapist or like having friends, family point that out. How has your experience been? Like, do you feel like when you're in these like higher anxiety or depressive states, like you notice it first, or do you feel like your friends, family notice it first?
For anxiety, I think others. For depression, I think me. I think I have been living with anxiety for a lot longer. That it's when it ramps up, I'm just so used to it. So Cooper will say things like, hey, you seem a little bit ramped. Like, let's talk
Yeah.
about it. And then
Right.
that opens me up to say, oh, okay, hold on, let me take a step back and think.
Right.
Depression, I feel like, is so new to me, and I still don't know how comfortable I am with it. And like, this is bizarre why I think this, but I have like embarrassment around being depressed. And so I think I put a
Aw.
mask up about like being strong and being okay to push through and whatnot. And so I think I'm less likely to show signs of depression
Yeah.
versus anxiety.
No, I think that's super interesting. I think depression, I think, is something that everyone goes through at different times. And I don't think anyone should ever feel embarrassed or guilt or shameful for feeling depressed.
Totally.
Like it's like, don't you think everyone goes through a depressive state at some point in their life?
I do think so. I do think anxiety is talked about more socially.
Yeah.
And so it feels more acceptable to be anxious than to be depressed, maybe.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
for us, like, so I'm Pakistani by culture, and I know for us, like, in most like South Asian, Middle Eastern cultures, like depression isn't something that you talk about. Like
Okay.
if you are depressed, like you probably don't use that word for sure.
Interesting.
Like it's kind of I think it's getting better, but I think just like culturally, like it's not something that you should feel. And if you do feel it, like you shouldn't identify it. And people are kind of just like, well, like you shouldn't be depressed, or like you have so many good things going on for you. Like you
Yeah.
should be grateful. You should be thankful for these things. So I think, yeah, I think I agree with you. Like anxiety is more commonly talked about for us,
Yeah.
and depression isn't as much.
I think that makes sense. And I'm really intrigued by the cultural aspect that you're talking about right now. Do you think so? There's probably like an embedded part of shame or guilt then around having mental health. So, what was that like for you? And like, how did your family respond to you saying, hey, I'm having some mental health stuff?
I think that's a great question. I don't think to this day I've ever really told them or said I'm depressed. Like they definitely know about my anxiety. Like
Like,
will
we can't
randomly be
hide
like,
that one.
yeah, I'll randomly just be like, oh, I'm really anxious. Like I'm really like feeling a lot of anxiety right now. So that I'm more comfortable sharing with them. I don't think I really say that I'm depressed, but I think my parents are super like progressive and ahead of things. And if anything, I think they've been the ones that are like, depression is normal. Like depression is okay. Like we all feel sad from time to time. And so
Giving you permission.
they've been awesome to like, yeah, giving me permission to feel that way.
Good.
But yeah, I think for me personally, like I'm more anxious, less depressed most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel like for you, is it more depression, less anxiety, or which one?
It's been really interesting. Since my spinal surgery, I've had a really bad bout of both. And I think part of that is probably like some PTSD about what actually happened.
Right.
So I wouldn't say like one is worse than the other by any means. But when I'm thinking about it, it's been really tricky the last 6 months, like facing it actually and wanting to get better and not just. I didn't start taking Wellbutrin for like the first 4 months because I told myself we're not just gonna numb.
Right.
We got to start talking about this and figuring it out. And I mean, I think you can hear me and our listeners can hear me. Like, I still don't have the right words to talk about. Like, why do I have such a hard time opening up about depression and like
Yeah.
actually dropping into like why? Like, I think I can talk about anxiety like that really
Right.
easily.
Right.
Feels comfortable, but not
Yeah.
with depression. When I first started having these kind of feelings, I'd like put, or not me, Cooper would put sticky notes around our house like, you're a badass. So fuego, just like little cheer up notes everywhere.
That's so cute. Yeah.
It was really, really cute and it helped a lot because it was
Yeah.
like a physical thing I had to look at and face and see like, okay, these feelings that I'm having are just in my head.
Mm-hmm.
They're in my brain chemistry right now, but it doesn't mean it's true.
Sorry, that just reminded me of this really funny story.
Tell me.
So when I was going through my divorce, and I think my therapist told me something similar of like put little like Post-its around your house,
Uh-huh.
like positive sayings. And I, of course, took it a step above and on my bathroom
Yes.
mirror with like a giant lipstick had written, like I forgot what it wrote, like, you are great, you're amazing, or like, you're doing awesome.
Yes. I love
And
it.
I remember my housekeeper came and she was like, so do you want to keep this on here? Do I need to clean this?
You're like, no, please keep it. It's
I was
art.
like, just leave it on there. Yeah.
It's art.
It was funny. I
What
think
about
little Post-its are good. I
Yeah.
think what do you think of this idea of like doing therapy even if something's not wrong? Like just
Yes.
having a relationship with a therapist regardless. And that way when/if things, do happen in life, you already have this like conversation going with someone.
I think it's a really important thing to do. I I definitely am in the camp of struggling with being consistent with therapy when things are going well. But
Yeah.
I think it's super important. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. But I think like already having an established relationship, like I know
Yes.
that like, so when I got diagnosed, I remember after 3 weeks, when I finally like my brain fog slightly cleared, I
Yeah.
texted my therapist and I said, I need to get in on a session ASAP. Like I just got diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah.
And she moved things around. Like normally she's booked up like a month in advance. She moved things around and was like, I can talk to you tomorrow. And I was like, perfect.
I love that.
So I think having a relationship with someone already established is great.
Yeah.
I think for kids, like I think therapy is really important too. I think,
Did you start therapy as a kid?
no, I wish I did.
Me too. Oh my God.
My husband and I joke that like when we hopefully have kids, like we're going to have like a jar.
Uh-huh.
And every time we do something like if we have an argument in front of them or if like we say something like off cuff, we're going to put money into this jar and this is going to be like their future therapy dollars.
Oh my God. That's epic. I love that.
Yeah. Just
What
trying to
a-
like get ahead of it.
And I think it's really refreshing too. Like just owning it. We inevitably are all going to do something
Of
that
course.
impacts not just our kids, but like our friends or our family and makes them need
Yeah.
to go to therapy.
Yeah.
It's nothing to be ashamed or embarrassed about. We're all just humans trying to do our best.
Yeah. I mean, another point about therapy that I will really advocate for, I think a lot of people talk to their friends and they feel like that's therapeutic.
Totally.
And I agree. So I agree. But I do think like therapists like have gone to school for this. They talk to people in like so many different scenarios. They've done
Yeah.
like so many case studies. And so I think that level of like professionalism and like the thoughts that come from a therapist are very different than like friends giving each other advice.
I think that's really, really a super important point.
Yeah.
You can lean on your friends, but your friends also only have X amount of capacity.
Yeah.
And going to them like they're a therapist. I'm sure we've all been in a friendship like this where you're like, holy F, I am at the end of my quips that I can share with this person. Time to bring in a professional.
My sister would like randomly text me and she'd be like, should I start sending like a Venmo request for like therapy for you? And I was like, okay, sorry.
Sorry,
I know
sorry.
I've definitely relied on her a lot over
Yeah.
the years to quote unquote, be a therapist on top of my other therapist.
That's how I am with my mom.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom. Thank you for being my initial therapist. You're amazing. You did great.
Yes. And then my brother, on the other hand, is like very straightforward. So he'll give really good advice, but he's less like chit chatty about it. So I think it's like siblings and friends, have their ways that they step in. But I think a professional therapist is, important for everyone, especially if
Totally.
you're sick. Like if you
Yeah.
are diagnosed with a serious illness, I think talking to a therapist is like, you should prioritize that almost like just as equally as like taking medicine.
I think that's really, really true. And I think a good reminder too is like, this is like dating. The first therapist you meet might not be the right fit. And I think a lot of people get discouraged and then turned off
Yes.
from therapy if they have one bad experience or someone just wasn't that value additive to them maybe. So
Yeah.
just be open-minded, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good point. I think it's probably going to take you a few therapists
Yeah.
to find the right one, but like when you find them, like you'll know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How did you find your therapist? Like, what kind of questions did you ask? Or was it just like a vibe that you were like, this is the one for me?
I think it was a vibe. I think when I walked away from the therapy session, I was like, I felt empowered.
Yes.
Like I felt like, okay, like I can do this. Versus I think that therapists that didn't work out, I was just like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
Like kind of just like confused at the end of the session. Like what was I talking about?
Absolutely. I had a therapist one time give me homework, like literally
Yeah.
paper sheets afterwards. And I got home and I was like, this isn't going to be the right fit for me. I am a verbal processor and this is not going to work.
That's so funny. So I asked my therapist to give me homework because I like it.
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. You would have loved my first therapist.
Yeah. So I like actively take notes during therapy and then I'm like, okay, like can you like send me like an assignment or like what's my homework for the week? Like what do I need to work on? And I think that keeps me
Accountable.
accountable.
That totally makes sense, Biz. Can I ask you, like, what is your thing you're looking at or working on right now with your therapist?
So I'm not actively doing therapy right now because
Okay.
I kind of felt like I kind of feel like I'm in a place that things are kind of stable.
Yeah.
And so I'm not actively in therapy right now, but what I do, like I think a couple of weeks ago, I was like, okay, I have a few things that I want to start talking about.
Yep.
And so I am planning on messaging my therapist and starting to go for weekly sessions are usually what works best for me.
Got it.
And so
Like
I try to
instance.
just like, yes, like within like whatever, like 3 months, 6 months, however long it needs.
Yeah.
And then I really like try to like be like, these are my goals. Like I want to work on like these topics. And so I think I'm at a point right now where I'm like, okay, I feel like there's a few things I want to go work on. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to get started with her again. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, I'm excited for you, B. I'm going to try to take
Yeah.
a page out of your book and do it that approach. I think maybe it's the way I started therapy was out of a really bad situation and I needed help with that.
Yeah.
I've treated therapy as like a band-aid almost to issues going on in my life and a quick fix instead of
Yeah.
and at times I would say like my therapist would also remind me there's been times where like we've worked on things, but I think I usually am more reactive than proactive with therapy.
Okay.
But I'm going to try your methodology. I really like that.
Good. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's worked well for me. And I think, you know, when I feel like I've like resolved what I was like, whatever goal I was like setting out to accomplish, then I'm like, okay, like I'm going to take a pause on therapy now.
What do you think about people that like say anxiety is not real or like it's all in your head? You just need to calm down.
So that's funny. So actually, like my husband, love him to death, but he in the beginning was like, anxiety is not real. It's in your head. Like it's not a real thing.
Yes.
And so I think I actually had you talk to him, right?
Yep.
And I was like, can you kind of explain to him? Because I feel like I'm kind of like, I can't do it.
You were at the end of your rope, I think, of explaining.
Yeah, because I was like, it's a real thing. It's a real medical diagnosis. And why don't you share like how you approached the conversation and how it went?
I said, hey, we should talk about mental health. I have been dealing with really, really bad anxiety and I want to talk to you about it. And then I think we just had a really candid conversation about how there's certain things that you can't control. And
Right.
I think I used the example of like getting diagnosed because that's an undeniable shift in your mental state.
Right.
And then I paired it back to, but that didn't start there. My first panic attack was when I was 4 years old in a butterfly garden, a place that's supposed to be serene and peaceful.
Yeah.
And I was a child. So why would that happen if it's just all in our heads?
Right.
And then I think we talked through that example. And then he started like asking questions. And then I think it was like he started reading about it
I think he did. Yeah.
and
He
talking
did
to his
own-
therapist about it.
Right.
And then he's come around.
Yeah. He's come around. I think it's like, you can't blame people for not getting it. Like they just haven't personally experienced it or maybe it is like some sort of stigma in their head that,
Yeah.
you know, like you should be stronger and you shouldn't have these issues happen.
Yeah.
But I think for the most part, like most people are open to the conversations. And I think like kind of what we had to do, like I had to pull in a friend, like phone a friend and be like, hey, like, can you talk to him and explain your viewpoint? Because sometimes like your partner sees you in this like really amazing light of like, oh, like this person doesn't have any issues. And so it's kind of like you kind of had to explain to them that I am really amazing, but I do have a couple issues. So
Yeah. I have a couple parts of me that just need extra love.
yeah.
And then also like to know that there's some people that just are not going to get it. There was some guy in our Instagram, not on our TikTok threads, that was like, sounds like you guys just need to be a bit tougher. I was like, that's epic. I looked at his profile. He's like living in the tundra in Canada. And I was like, yeah, honestly,
That checks out.
He's not going to change his mind on us.
Yeah. Toughen up, girls.
Toughen up, ladies. So one of my favorite things I learned in therapy, this is when I started working with a chronic illness therapist. And she told me that like one of the biggest moments of conflict when we're sick is because the way that we need to be supported and the way that the giver is supporting us don't align. And so she told me that there's solutions, sympathy, and shit talking. And it's really one of those three that you're always looking for. I recognize that my go-to is usually solutions. I'm like, oh, let me fix that. But sometimes it's not what people want, and they want sympathy or shit talking and to just like sit in the shit with them.
Right.
And when I learned that tool, I was like, wow, okay, this is pretty awesome. And I told that to my entire family, and it completely changed the dynamic of when I had really tough times, them being able to show up for me in the way that I actually really needed without having to get frustrated or anything like that.
Absolutely. I think my experience with that has been like most of like the men in my family are very like solution oriented. Like if I state a problem to them or state an emotion to them, they go into solution mode. Like how do I fix this?
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily always what I'm looking for, right? So like it may just be the shit talking or it may be sympathy. So I think having that tool is like super important, that you can just tell people like I just want to shit talk, or I just want sympathy. And so I think people really, for like caregivers, it's super helpful to present that tool to them so that they know which one that you need in that moment.
What's your like go-to usually that you like to receive, and what's your go-to that you like to give?
I think my go-to to give is sympathy. So I think I start with sympathy. And then I kind of like during that sympathy moment feel out like, do they need a solution or do they just want to talk?
Yeah.
And
you're excellent at that.
I think receiving, I would like to also receive that.
Sympathy.
Yeah. But I think I receive a lot of solutions.
I think you do receive a lot of solutions.
Yeah. What about for you?
I give solutions more, I would say. Certain people, I don't know, I feel like sometimes I'm more sympathy maybe with like you.
Mm-hmm.
Where we'll just like talk out a situation instead of jump on a solution. But I think that is my natural tendency, is to go towards solutions.
Yeah.
And for receiving, I think I like shit talking.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like if I have a problem, I'm like, and that's not always true. Sometimes I do want a solution.
Yeah.
But like if it's fresh and I'm angry about something, I'm like, I just want to fucking shit talk this out of my body.
Okay, I love that. I'm definitely going to like step up my game then.
Hell yeah, you have full permission to go full tilt shit talking with me. And I'm going to make sure that I pare back my solutions. You're already getting enough, for sure.
That's hilarious. I love that.
Me too.
So Alex and I both have been doing this. It's called, what are we calling it? The 410.
The 410. The sick chick soft 410.
Yes. Well, there's this like trend going on, which is like the 75 hard.
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Which is ridiculous. You guys, I don't know if you guys know what it is. Why don't we tell people what that is?
Oh, happily. Okay, so it's a viral trend. People are essentially giving themselves awful habits. Just kidding. So you have to you have to complete 5 critical tasks every single day. And some of the things you have to double down on. So like exercising twice a day. You stick to a very rigid nutritional plan. You have to drink X amount of water, no alcohol, no sugar, and you do things to strengthen your mental fortitude. No rest, no cheat days, no substitutions. If you do miss or overlook something, your clock starts over. And you have to do this for 75 days straight. So Bisma and I were talking, and we were like, that's psychotic.
Yeah, like those people sound nuts.
Doesn't sound like someone we would be friends with. Just kidding. I have friends that are actively doing this right now. You inspire me, but I do think you're a little psycho. And we were like, we should make a sick chick one because we believe in rest. We believe in cheat days.
Being kind to your body, to your mind.
Yeah. So we wanted to make our own.
Yes. So we are calling this the 410 soft
Sick Chick Soft Challenge. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So the 4 things. So there's 4 things that you're going to do every day, which are 10 minutes each. So the first one is 10 minutes of gratitude. So 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening. Alex and I both have gratitude journals. And so we use those every morning and night. Here they are. And
free promo for Intelligent Change.
So we do 10 minutes of gratitude every day, 10 minutes of movement every day, 10 minutes of meditation every day, and 10 minutes of being outdoors every day. And how is that going for you, Alex?
Really, really good. Last Sunday, I was having like a pretty tough mental health day. I think I sent a text out to like several of my family members and friends saying like, I'm in the trenches right now. This is hard. And Cooper was like, you know what, sweetie, we're going to go on a walk. Let's drive to a community garden and walk around. And I looked at Cooper halfway through and I was like, damn, being outside is literally like taking a Xanax. I think I'd also taken a Xanax right before it. So, you know, double down.
Double up, yeah.
Double up on it all. And it's so true. Like there's something about being in nature where you are reminded that you are just a part of the whole world and the whole ecosystem and that there are other things going on. There's an ant carrying like a Snickers bar across the road and it's amazing. And you're like, okay, I can overcome my blues. I can overcome this anxiety or whatever is sitting heavily on you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that being outdoors has been really good for you and for me.
Yeah.
The movement, I usually just go on a walk in our neighborhood. What does movement look like for you?
It's usually a walk. We live pretty near the Greenbelt. We can just like walk from our house to it. So usually it's moving over there and in the Greenbelt for about an hour. After about an hour, I kind of max out and my back is starting to be in a lot of pain. So it's usually my cap. But I also try to do physical therapy 1 to 3 times per week. And that seems to really, really help.
That's awesome. That's really good.
And then on bad pain days, it's just stretching.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And then the gratitude journal, like what a good way. You have to really like have some, what's it called? Self-rigidness? Discipline. Thank you.
Yeah.
Some self-discipline to not reach for your phone the first thing in the morning, but to reach for the gratitude journal, I think.
Yeah.
But I have noticed like doing that does make a change in my day.
Right.
And same with like at night. Cooper just started doing it actually the other week and he looked at me this weekend and was like, this is awesome. This has actually been really, really helpful for me.
Yeah. The gratitude journal is like basically there's like a cute quote on the top, which is like something inspirational, which sometimes I read, sometimes I don't. Like sometimes I'm just in my own head and I don't want to read it. And then you do 3 things that you're grateful for.
Yep.
Is that right? 3 things you're grateful for. Yeah. Why don't you read the journal?
3 things you're grateful for, 3 things that would make the day great, and then a daily affirmation. And then there's that little quote at the top, which I've now made it a habit to read the next day's quote as the last thing that I do the night of.
I love that.
I do too. And so
And
then,
then the page at the end, it says like, what are 3 things that you liked in your day? Mm-hmm. And then what's the last thing?
what did you learn? Which I love.
Yeah, I actually struggle with that one sometimes. That's the hardest one for me.
It is hard.
It's like, what did I learn? But it makes you focus within,
Yes.
because a lot of times I'm like, I didn't learn anything. I was just doing the same thing I do every day.
Yeah.
But it makes you like reach within and like dig into different parts of your day and say like and yourself, and be like, what was the learning moment? And sometimes mine are silly, sometimes they're serious. Mine are as silly as like, I learned that if you don't close the jar, the lid of the brown sugar correctly, you get a lot of ants. And like, it's, something as silly as that. And sometimes it's as serious as, if I breathe deeper before saying something, it's more impactful what I say.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. You actually taught me an interesting way to do the gratitude journal also.
Tell me.
Okay, so when I was first doing it, I would say things that I was grateful for that were already happening in my life.
Yes.
So like, I'm really grateful that I have an amazing family. I'm really grateful that my vasculitis isn't like destroying my organs. I'm really grateful that I get to work with my best friend. And then one day we were doing it together and you were like,
yeah,
all right, so it's when we were applying for the Joe Dispenza retreat. And you were like, all right, I'm going to do my gratitude journal and say I'm so grateful that we got into the Joe Dispenza retreat. And I was like, bitch, we haven't gotten in yet. And you're like, I'm just putting it out there that I'm going to be grateful for it when it happens. And
exactly.
I was like, oh my God. And I have changed how I do my gratitude journaling every single day since then.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely like a Joe Dispenza, like,
ism
takeaway. Yeah. It's like you have to manifest and like really like your body actually doesn't know if something has already happened or is going to happen. And so if you tell your body that something has already happened, like it feels the exact same chemicals that it does if it were to actually happen. And so
100%.
It's so cool. And so I think that's definitely something, like all of my gratitude things are things that haven't happened yet, but are going to happen because I'm going to make
pulling
it
it
happen,
in.
essentially.
Yeah.
And then also for my daily affirmations, I do the same thing. I actually do, I mean, this is kind of personal, but I will share it. So my daily affirmation usually is something along the lines of, my cancer is cured, my cancer is gone, God has made my cancer disappear.
I love that.
I really just try to like tell myself that throughout the day. And I think bringing in that element of God for me is really important because I'm a big believer of like, we as humans have to like do our part and then God will help us. We can't just like sit and be like hopeless and, not do the things. And so I think combining those two has been really important for me. And I'm super hopeful that affirmation will come true.
I think it's going to. You're calling it in, and God's blessing that it happens.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that, Biz.
Of course.
Well, that's a lot about mental health. That was your 101 primer on Bisma and I and our really fucked up brains.
We're doing really well, guys. I promise.
We're super positive.
Someone's going to send like a search party to our house after this episode airs. There's these funny memes out there that are like my version of therapy is like me and my best friend just telling each other like we're going to be okay. And like one person having a meltdown, the other person like consoling them, and then just like repeating in circles. Yes. I think let's wrap up. I think hopefully that was helpful for you guys to, see what we're going through, and hopefully you can relate, and kind of just a PSA for anyone that's like struggling with their mental health and doesn't have anyone to talk to. You guys are more than welcome to reach out to us. We, are not professionals, but if you just need a friend to talk to, we are there for that. And then definitely like reach out to your medical team. They can also point you towards a therapist if you need a starting point to do that.
Thanks for the therapy session, Biz. I'll Venmo
Yes.
you after this.
I love it. All right. Take
love
care,
you.
everyone.
Love you
All
guys.
right. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Not So Sick Chicks. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday.
Subscribe and rate 5 stars. And of course, send this to a friend who is a sick chick trying to be a little less sick. We're all in this together.
Follow us on socials at the Not So Sick Chicks.
And we'll see you next week.